Well, the Supreme Court today issued its first substantive ruling on a Trump administration policy. In a 5-4 decision, the justices upheld President Trump's travel ban from several predominantly Muslim countries. The Trump administration applauded the ruling, saying the ban will allow the United States to protect its borders. But many families are now left to wonder how that ruling will impact their lives. KARE 11's Kent Erdahl has that story.
When Muslims are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back!
On a night when some Minnesotans showed support for their Muslim neighbors by raising their voices,
I don't know what to say.
Somali-American Nimco Hashi
But I wish everything will be okay.
struggled to find any words to tell her daughter
What happened?
that her grandparents' visit is still in jeopardy.
They can't come here?
Nimco and her family came to America 8 years ago as refugees from Somalia by way of South Africa. They have since added to their family and even became American citizens.
We have peace here, and that's our main goal.
But their secondary goal of reuniting with Nimco's parents was dealt a setback when President Trump first issued a travel ban 17 months ago.
I think that's just rude and mean and disgraceful.
It is something much different, according to the president.
It's a tremendous victory for the American people and for our Constitution.
The Supreme Court's conservative majority decided Trump acted within his rights to protect the country. Chief Justice John Roberts saying the ban has legitimate purpose, preventing entry of nationals who cannot be adequately vetted and inducing other nations to improve their practices.
I just want my family to come here.
Nimco's daughter may now have to wait on a planned July reunion, but they are not giving up.
I wish government will will give us another opportunity. No.
You haven't given up hope?
No. I don't give up hope.
The 4 justices who dissented today argued the ban is rooted in the president's harsh views toward Muslims. But Justice Roberts said that isn't enough, stating we must consider not only the statements of a particular president, but also the authority of the presidency itself. Julie?
All right. Thank you, Kent.